Hi, welcome to Enter the Bunker, where we launch you into thriving. Each week we talk about a different virtue that can be used as a building brick to build your own personal bunkers. We share personal stories, as well as tips and tricks to help you thrive instead of survive. So sit down, relax, and enter the bunker.
Hello and welcome to Enter the Bunker. This week's building brick is humanity. My name's Kelly.
And I'm Jonathan.
And the meaning of humanity, having an attitude of caring and mercy to all people.
Do you think there's enough humanity in today's world?
I'm not sure. Well, my first answer wants to be no, but I would like that to change by the end of this episode. So
okay, let's change it.
Let's change it.
Let's do this.
Let's go over 4 quotes here. The first one, the sole meaning of life is to serve humanity. Leo Tolstoy, a Russian writer. Quote 2, our common humanity is more important than all things that divide us. Myrid Corrigan Maguire, an Irish peace activist. Quote 3, the moment you stop treating people like people, that's the moment you lose humanity. Sir Brain Matoshi, a motivational speaker. And finally, the fourth one, be the reason someone smiles, be the reason someone feels loved and believes in the goodness of people. Roy T. Bennett, author.
Excellent.
All right. So I have a favorite quote. Do you have a favorite quote?
I do.
Which one's yours?
I think the Russian one is the one that I like the best. It's the simplest. It's also aligns with my beliefs. The sole meaning of life is to serve humanity.
I don't understand that though. Maybe I do, but maybe I don't. I don't know. The sole meaning of life is to serve humanity. I guess. Okay, to explain. You know?
So, I mean, if humanity is about having an attitude of caring and mercy to people,
right,
then the meaning of life is to serve others and to serve humanity as a whole. So
as a whole, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you are in your life and your purpose in life is to bring caring and mercy, then that is your purpose.
Right.
Right. And a lot of people simply don't identify with that. You know, like if you ask you ask everybody, you know, what's the meaning of life, you'll get a million different answers, right? But if you simply recognize that it's to serve humanity, well, that's a very big umbrella that then unfolds a lot of like that then becomes a new kind of value hierarchy, right? So that we've talked about before, where if it's serving humanity is where it starts, then what does that mean for everything else, right? And so then that means essentially that you're going to infuse caring and mercy into everything you do.
Right.
Right.
So actually my favorite quote here is, our common humanity is more important than all the things that divide us. And kind of what you're saying is kind of making me be like, that's kind of really similar to this quote too, because the fact that I don't know, everything that you said, like I can't explain it. Like, it's what brings everyone together. The commonness, I guess.
The truth is that when we focus on the things that we have in common, we actually find there's a lot more of that than the things that divide us.
Right.
And that's what that quote's about too, right?
Yeah.
So if you have, going back to the quote I was talking about, so if your attitude and your belief that your purpose in life is to serve humanity, then you are going to have that kind of vision when you're dealing with everybody. You're going to be like, you know, we are all we are commonly connected, right?
In one way or another.
And so that is to the opposite of that, which is racism and all these other things that happen, and these things that are focused on dividing everybody, right? So we divide ourselves by our countries, we divide ourselves by our language, we divide ourselves by our race, we divide ourselves by like all these things, right? And these are all constructs that we've created. And if we can just recognize that, you know, if our purpose is to serve humanity, if it is to recognize the commonalities, then it becomes a lot easier to to feel that connection, right? Yeah, I mean, like I've traveled, I've traveled around the world.
Yeah.
So I was in a lot of situations where I couldn't talk to the people, like
Right.
we couldn't communicate because we both spoke totally different languages.
Yeah.
They may have knew a few words or so in English or something, or we were both just struggling to figure out. But what's interesting is that in all those circumstances,
Yeah.
I remember myself and them having a lot more care and attention to trying to communicate with one another than someone who could speak English with me.
Yeah.
Right. Like if somebody is like you talk to people now, like I hate to use social media as an example, but when everybody speaks the same language, that attention and care, the mercy and the caring of the humanity almost becomes secondary to whatever other thing, you're
Right.
looking. But then when you're struggling to connect, when there's actually like that, when there really isn't that there is a division,
Yeah.
and you want to get past that in order to have a commonality, you actually put more care and attention into it, and you actually find that you really want to connect with this person, and you'll put all this effort into it.
Yeah.
And so traveling around the world, I was in that circumstance so many times, and I actually felt more a sense of like, wow, that person is like they're really caring. They're really nice. They're really
Yeah.
I felt like these were like really awesome people because they put all this effort into trying to talk to me.
Right. You're seeing them go out of their way.
Yeah.
They could have just been like,
Yeah, but
walk
I mean,
away.
but that and it was because I needed to make that effort, right?
Yeah.
And we both had to make that effort.
Yeah.
So it's just it's interesting because obviously like that was just my experience. Now, if I could talk natively to them and I could be able to like go into more details about what are their opinions on this and that,
Yeah.
I'm sure I could probably find things that we disagreed on and things like that,
yeah.
and maybe not feel so connected. But if you put mercy and caring before all that, the ability to be able to connect becomes possible.
Yeah.
If you continue to focus on them not really being like, if you don't focus on the humanity in all of us, then here's just thinking about what you see in the movies, it's just like, somebody tries to talk to like how often have you seen in the movies where somebody who's a foreigner coming to Canada or the US or something, they're coming to the country and they can barely speak English. And then the response to that person is just like, hey, learn how to speak English.
Yeah.
That's what we talk here. It's just like, that's totally devoid of humanity. Right.
Yeah.
And that's just an example of like that person sees them as something that's not human simply because can speak the same language.
Right.
Yeah. So it's where we have that commonality. We understand that. And it's not like it's that's the truth.
Yeah.
Like we all have that same truth. And to create those divisions is where you fall into the trap,
Right.
you get into a state where you feel disconnected from everybody. You don't exercise caring. You don't exercise mercy. You become this, I don't know how to describe it. Like you in the world, you just end up fighting everything.
Right.
Right. And just, it's not fun.
So after you kind of explaining all this, I like to think now that the world is trying to become a more humane place with what you see kind of goes on with regards, I guess, to racism and like the I'm not good at the LBG, TQ community. Sorry, I forget. Anyways, I feel like people are trying to become more humane when it comes to that sort of thing. So, and now it kind of goes back to your quote that you like to, the sole meaning of life is to serve humanity. It's all coming together for me. I'm getting it after your explanation there.
Awesome.
All right. So the opening here, we are one. If this week's building brick of humanity stands for anything, it is that we are all connected and we all need each other. The essence of humanity is that no one person is greater than another, that we are all connected, that the totality of us humans is greater than the sum of us as individuals. Everyone you meet is going through something worthy of compassion and kindness, worthy of being treated as an equal, worthy as being human. Because we are all one, every single one of us is part of the global community known as humanity, and that is something special to protect. The second you stop treating people like people is the moment you lose humanity. So, yeah, I actually, when I was reading through the quotes, that was another one that I liked too, because I feel like that can also go so quick the other way. Like at the moment somebody stops treating people humanely,
That's right.
um, it's gonna rub off on that person, and it could. Do you know what I mean? It's just gonna be like a snowball effect.
Yeah.
So the quote here: the second you stop treating people like people is the moment you lose humanity, because it's just gonna snowball effect, and then people are just gonna be savages towards each other.
Yeah. Well, just like racism is something that's learned.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And, it's interesting as we're talking about how all of us are part of the human race and things like that. Myself as a Baha'i, like that's actually a tenet within the Baha'i faith.
Right.
So I've grown up always believing this. But what's interesting is, growing up a 80s kid and whatnot, not to date myself, but that was something that was actually pretty foreign.
Right.
The concept of even it wasn't so long. I mean, like the idea that, the world, like the idea of like, we are all one, we're all one human race and things like this, they were actually quite foreign concepts. Like a lot of people, even today, still only identify themselves by nations. Right? Like I'm a Canadian, I'm an American, I'm a Ukrainian, and these are the identifiers that make them feel separated from maybe like the other person, right? So if I'm a Canadian and you're an American, what is the difference, right?
We're human.
We're both human.
Yeah.
But what is the real difference? And the thing is though that people identify with these kind of identities, and it separates them. And then of course you can get into other things. You could be a trucker, it's like, what does that identify as, right? It's like, you're this, you're that, and even especially today, there's so many different labels that people are either they're taking up or they're putting on other people, right?
Yeah.
And these things separate. And so then they completely forget that they're actually talking to human beings like you. That again, this comes back to what I was mentioning about, especially in social media, where people just don't even think about who they're talking to, or they don't give that kind of care and attention to the fact that you're talking to a real person here. You're not, just because they espouse to a certain belief doesn't mean they're not a person.
Yeah.
Right. But
people forget that because there's a screen there.
I feel like there's almost been an effort to do that. I feel like there's almost an effort in the world to try to take away humanity from people.
Or that's just an excuse too.
It's an excuse.
People know there's a human there. What do you think you are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I really think that it's interesting that growing up, seeing just the concepts of humanity as one was something that I didn't see when I was younger. Like other people didn't identify that. That was something that was. It was almost like you explain that to people and you would espouse to that, and then it was something that was weird.
Yeah.
Fast forward, here we are now, and it's like, here we are talking about it openly. It's like, well, yeah, duh, that's obviously we are, and we've had an opportunity now with the internet to be able to actually connect with others around the world and actually say like, look at the team we work with, like in terms of like we do development around the world.
Yep.
There's people that we work from who are from India. They're from Russia. They're from Serbia. They're from Brazil. They're from and they're like, there's some from the Ukraine. There's some from Australia.
Yeah.
Like there's
all over the world.
All over the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so but then once we think about before the internet, there wasn't that much opportunity for people to really understand we really are, a common humanity. And then once you actually get to have an opportunity to connect with people that way, then it becomes obviously moment. But before the internet, it wasn't so obvious. It was.
I've never thought of that.
Yeah, it was beholden to whatever you saw on the news and whatever you read in your history books, which of course
propaganda.
Yeah. So it's all made to make you think a thing about somebody, right? So so with the internet now and our ability to be able to connect with one another, we have to be mindful about actually, coming across with caring and mercy with the people we're talking to, and so that we actually do connect with each other, right?
Yeah.
And that's what matters most. And all these whatever the cause may be, whatever the banner is that they're flying, at the end of the day, you have to remember that that they're just people, and they're operating from a place where they believe that what they're doing is good.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Either they feel that they're defending something, or they feel like they're standing for what they believe in.
Yep.
And if you actually, put aside whatever it is that you think they represent, and sat down and have a conversation, you might actually be surprised. Like, you actually might be like, well, yeah, that's what I think too.
Yeah.
It's like
all your comments.
Yeah, but that's not what the news said, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of like what you would suddenly realize, like, wait a minute,
Find
like,
it for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So it's really like humanity is something that is, I believe, like going back to what we started with, I believe it is something that's lacking today, but it's also something which I think people want the most now.
Yeah.
So if we can find a way to
Pivot.
help people
Yeah.
build that building brick,
Yeah.
and make it so that they're bringing more humanity to the world,
Yeah.
then I think that would be a real counterbalance to how people, what people are experiencing today, right? So, yeah, those are just some of my thoughts on it. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for more humanity, and I think there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
I just think it's been censored a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. All right. So join us for part 2, and we'll discuss how to bring more humanity to your life and to the world.
We'll see you there.
We'll see you there.
Thank you for listening to Enter the Bunker. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, where you can share your story and also look at behind the scenes of how we make our podcast. You can watch the video version of this podcast on YouTube by simply searching Enter the Bunker. Tune in next time as we launch into thriving.